If there is one thing I can contribute to Flames content, it is absolutely being the Vegas Golden Knights' #1 hater.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today, I thought it would be a fun idea to take a look at the Pacific Division. Who got better? Who got worse? Did anyone move the needle enough to be like, okay, you're crawling out of that rebuild stage and ready to take that next step? And who just more than likely got worse? But we're going to dive into all of that on today's episode. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. When I was putting this together, I had to think really hard because I feel like some of the Pacific Division teams, like the Duck and the Kraken, really haven't done much. Like, nothing about this excites me, other than the Ducks first round draft pick. That's really it. But Vegas took some significant losses. Edmonton is not doing well cap space wise. They traded Ryan McLeod, and I don't know, they're still trying to potentially get Evander Kane's contract off the books. San Jose just got their first overall draft pick. So I'm not even mad at anything else that they do this summer, except if they sign Shillington, then I'm probably going to be a little bummed. But I think some of the biggest moves have come from LA, the Canucks, the Flames. And that, again, just my opinion. In all honesty, maybe the Flames a little biased, but I feel like they've been busy. I feel like they have had a very busy offseason, so they've had room to either get better or get worse. And it all depends on what your objective is and what you want to see from this upcoming year's Flames team moving forward. The Kings obviously traded Pierre Luc Dubois basically as soon as the offseason started, which was crazy. I don't think anyone expected that to happen, especially after the oh no, we're not buying him out comment at the end of their season. So I wonder if, obviously this was something that was in the works for a while. The Canucks, they lost Elias Lindholm, they lost Zadorov, they brought in Jake DeBrusk, re-signed Tyler Myers. There was some stuff there, but I'm not entirely convinced that the Pacific Division is going to look the same as to what it did this year. I guess Trevor Zegras may be traded. I feel like we see these rumors every 3 months, and it's just kind of like clockwork at this point. So, I mean, could he be on his way out? Maybe. I don't know. I was flabbergasted when they traded Jamie Drysdale. That shocked me. That took me out. And now they're talking about moving Zegras, who was supposed to be, both of those players were supposed to be such integral parts of this rebuild, and it's not shaping up that way. So it's very interesting to me. And the Kraken, they signed Berkeley Catton to that ELC, and nothing else happened. I've been waiting mainly for the Ducks and the Kraken to make moves, to be like, "Hey, we have traded for this guy," or, "Hey, we are trading this guy for draft picks," or whatever the case may be. It just feels like there's a stalemate going on right now, and I'm obviously not saying they have to trade with it, like, within the division, but, like, anything would be nice. I feel like no one no one wants to work these days. I'm just kidding. Um, but in comparison to other teams around the league, you will never know what the New York Islanders do. That is just Lou Lamoriello's policy. Like, you don't know a single thing. Um, and I remember when Kadri hadn't signed anywhere yet, everyone was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna see him like skate out like opening night, and he'll be an Islander." No, surprise, surprise. But Calgary, we have talked about their offseason ad nauseum this uh last 3 months, and it has been a very productive summer for Craig Conroy, and that's very good because I feel like productive is what we want. I think every team wants to have that productive offseason, whether it's adding, you're a buyer because you want to uh have a strong full season and solidify your spot as a cup contender, or if you're like waiting and stocking those draft picks to the pile so you can trade at the deadline, um is another thing. And I feel like the Flames, like, they know that this team is what it is. Like, drafting in the top 10 again this year is the goal. And I know people don't like to hear that because it means you have to watch bad hockey. But again, there's going to be light at the end of this tunnel. All rebuilds don't last 9,000 years. But the Flames, they had an excellent draft. They moved two big contracts and two significant players on this team, as well as acquiring some pretty solid free agents. And coming up next, we're gonna talk more about the winners, go a little bit more in depth, because I think you have to. I'm looking at this like, who moved the needle and who stayed stagnant. And we will be right back after this break. And I want to talk to you all about Indeed. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, it's the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. I think the matching program is fantastic on Indeed. It links you to exactly who you're looking for, what you're looking for in a candidate, and it's super helpful. So you're not wasting time digging and searching and maybe finding someone. Indeed brings it to you. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. And just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today and making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you are getting your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. With a long off season comes teams that hit it out of the park, hit a double up the middle, or strike out. And we're going to talk about the good thus far. I think one of the most significant things is obviously the Kings trading PLD. It's not like Pierre Luc Dubois is a production machine anymore. His career is so fascinating to me, but they traded for him from Winnipeg, then traded him to Washington and got a goalie in return, Darcy Kuemper. They've needed a goalie. I feel like they have kind of just been running this like free agent tandem for the last few years. And then like they shipped Korpisalo off to Ottawa. And it just a whole thing. I feel like this is something that needed to be done simply because this is a hard cap era. It's a hard cap sport. You can't defer payments like you can in baseball. Like you look at Shohei Ohtani's contract. That's like just not a thing in hockey. They just extended Quentin Byfield as well, who is probably going to be a full-time center now, which I think could be interesting because I saw that if he does make that move, he is going to be obviously playing away from what he's known these last few seasons. And, he does have a little bit of a defensive he'll have more of a defensive responsibility, which takes his shift away from the offensive production goals wise. And that could be interesting. So you have to kind of look at that and think, hey, is this the right move? If, we can get someone up here for center and put him back on the wing and have him consistently producing. The Ducks, I mean, they're winners because they drafted their draft pick, Brett Seneca, is just hysterical. Absolute guy. I still don't see them making a jump in any way, shape, or form. I feel like we're not going to see the Ducks get better, or not even better. I don't think that they're going to make any sort of change in their performance until they trade Trevor Zegras. I feel like this is just like this dark cloud that's like looming over them, and I don't know what the case is. I don't know if they are like what the holdup is. I think maybe it has to do with the return packages. Are they sure they want to kind of, go back to ground zero again and kind of fix what they've created? I'm not convinced, but I don't consider them losers because their draft pick made the draft memorable. The San Jose Sharks signed, obviously drafted Macklin Celebrini, and signed him and Will Smith to their entry-level contracts. They have their guys. I like what they have going there. And this is what they've needed to do. And these next few years are going to be fun, I think, for the Sharks. They've finally turned over their roster to the point where they're able to implement the younger players that were brought in and now add these high-end players to the front, like with Will Smith, with Celebrini. Like it's good stuff. And I look forward to watching their season to some extent, because I think that out of the teams that I've named, I think that they are going to be the ones that maybe take the biggest step forward. And not just because they are, they had the first overall draft pick or anything like that, because like anything can happen there. But I think the Sharks as a whole have laid a nice groundwork for them to build off of, and they are getting somewhere with it. I would expect them, I mean, I don't know if they're going to want to sign a veteran goalie or something, figure something out there, because I feel like that's still something that's missing. But again, I would tune in to Locked On Sharks. JD does a fantastic job. I do not follow the Sharks as a fan in any capacity, but JD's coverage of the Sharks over the last 4 or 5 years has been phenomenal, and you should definitely check it out, and has some great interviews as well. And I think that they're starting to like make steps forward. I don't think that they're going to make like a giant leap or like pull themselves out of this bottom of the barrel era that they're in, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit different than what the Flames or the Sharks fans have been watching for the last few years. I also have to say the Flames are a winner, and that probably seems really biased, and I'm sorry, but I don't think that they've lost really anything this offseason. I don't. I think that this has been a successful, I would say since December has been really successful for the Flames in terms of the goals they want to accomplish. Obviously, traded Zadorov, traded Lindholm, traded Tanev, Hanifin. And then this summer, you come out of the gate and say, everything's fine with Jacob Markstrom and us. There's no strained relationship. We don't have to trade him. And then you trade him like 2 days later. Like, there are so many things that just like drive me crazy about hockey. And it's like the not so subtle dropping of hints. So typically, like, it just feels like it's the opposite of whatever's going to happen. But, they ended up trading Mangiapane too out of nowhere. And that was big, obviously. They didn't retain a penny of his salary, which was huge, 5.8, 5.9 cap hit for the rest of the season, frees up the cap space for the Flames and gives them the flexibility. And, they still need to re-sign Dustin Wolf, which that's bound to happen. I have to pre-record Friday's episode. So if they re-sign Dustin Wolf tomorrow, you're welcome. But in all seriousness, they had a great draft. They had a solid free agency. I like that they're bringing Ryan Lomberg back. They're bringing Anthony Mantha in. I think that their blue line has gotten better with Kevin Ball and Jake Bean. I still wish things worked out with them in Shillington. It stinks. And maybe something does change. But coming up next, we are going to put on our hater hats and just absolutely dump on all of these teams. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, and I will be right back after this. I love sports, and I love them so much. I actually never, ever want them to stop. But with the playoffs winding down and, we're getting fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I am in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Go place your bets on who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this upcoming season. Who maybe they have some Calder stuff or Calder Trophy stuff up. Is this going to be Macklin Celebrinis, or are we going to look at someone else, maybe like Dustin Wolf, coming up to snatch it from them? But head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me today on this Thursday edition of Locked On Flames. Hope you're having a great day, and make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. The Kraken and Ducks. Like, I know I talked about them earlier and they kind of just were floating there. Um, I'm just gonna rename this section like who has not moved the needle or like significantly regressed. To me, the Kraken and the Ducks have not done anything for me. I feel very underwhelmed by their off seasons. I think the Kraken like I think it's the Jessica Campbell hiring. Um I don't think that the Kraken have done anything in a very long time that has me thinking, "Oh my god, this is so good for them." Um Obviously the team is young, so like there's still room to grow there and that for that to change, but I had different expectations for them. Simply because I thought they might have a better vision. And I've talked about the Ducks enough. They are so confusing. I don't know what's going on there. And I have to put the Canucks here too, mainly because I don't know what you are going to get out of Jake DeBrusk. And I think that he is a player that he can get streaky. Happens everywhere. Happens with every player. But I do wonder how his personality and Rick Tockett's way of coaching is going to mesh, considering the headbutting that went on with Bruce Cassidy and Jake earlier on in his career. And is he going to take it personally if he's scratched? Not scratched, like if he sat for a shift or if he does get scratched. I think it's a little bit of a respect thing, and I'm interested to see how that plays out. I don't know. I don't know what could happen. And I wish nothing but the best for the kid, but Ryan Huska would have been perfect match for you, bud. I'm I'm also really I don't know. I think you're obviously losing Zadorov, who is another big physical player on your back end, and that's tough too. Losing physicality is very tough, and losing, it might not always be great, but a solid defenseman like Nikita Zadorov, you want to keep him around for a little bit. And I guess truly, like, at the end of the day, I am just here to dump on Vegas and Edmonton. I do not know what Edmonton is doing. I don't understand the Ryan McLeod trade for Buffalo. They sent back a really good prospect, and the math does not make sense to me. I mean, what are you doing? They should be trying to figure out something with goaltending, because didn't they buy out Jack Campbell too? Like, what's the plan? And Vegas lost a considerable amount of players too. They lost Marchessault, Teddy Bluger, Riley Smith, and then Logan Thompson gets traded at the draft. Vegas doesn't have goaltenders. They don't have anyone that's like, aha, yes, this is our solution. And I think they've kind of gotten themselves into a hole, and you can joke about the LTIR stuff all you want, and it's kind of gotten them in a little bit of a mess. Like, yeah, sure, you won a Stanley Cup, but like, I don't think you're winning another one anytime soon, simply because of, what you've lost at the prices you've lost them, or prices you've signed people. And losing, I feel like Logan Thompson was a pretty solid goaltender. And for a team that doesn't have a backup plan, doesn't really seem like a smart idea. But again, the Oilers, I don't understand what is going on with them. Go listen to Locked On Oilers with Nick, because he'll probably have a much better explanation. I think that they are more than likely going to hire Stan Bowman, and that is a choice. I think that they are going to be more focused on re-signing Draisaitl and getting that done, and Connor McDavid, and figuring everything out there. And I don't know. I don't want to be in that mess. I don't care if you made the Stanley Cup Finals. That is a mess. There is a mess there, and it's not mine to clean. I think really like the biggest key pieces, or I guess not key pieces, the biggest additions came for the Sharks and the Flames. Sharks got Macklin Celebrini. Flames got rid of 2 big contracts, top 10 draft pick, 2 first rounders. Like, they did it. And there's still a few months left before camp opens. I'm curious to see when Dustin Wolf's signing happens, when Pelletier gets his extension. Like, what are we doing with Solyov and Klapka? There, there's still some players that need contracts. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, because in Craig Conroy we trust. But that will do it for me on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic week, and just enjoy the nice weather, if it's the nice weather where you are, and stay cool, stay hydrated. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And I will see you all tomorrow.